Hi, welcome to Bookshelf Games. I'm Lawrence. This week, continuing the series on Magic Realm. Magic Realm, again, was put out by Avalon Hill in 1978, designed by Richard Hamblin. This week, going over the evening. And the main part of the evening is going to be combat. Combat is actually pretty straightforward. Once you learn it, it's going to seem really simple. It's just there's a lot of different things that can come up that's going to make it seem complicated and long. But it's really, really not. All you're going to do is play down your attacks and your maneuvers. And then if an attack is faster than a maneuver, it's automatically going to hit. If it lines up, it's going to hit. That's really all there is to it. But then there's just a couple little things that come up that need to go over, so it could take a little while. But we'll go ahead and get into it now. Sunset. At sunset, you want to take one character's attention chit from each clearing. So looking at this clearing, we have both the Woods Girl and the Berserker. So we only need to take one of their attention chits. And the attention chits are the ones that are blank on one side and have a symbol on the other. We also have a clearing that contains the Wizard. So we'll also take his attention chit. We're then going to take those attention chits and mix them up blank side up. Once magic is introduced, sunset is also when many spell effects will expire. Evening. Randomly pick the attention chits set aside at sunset one at a time. When a character's chit is picked, combat takes place in his clearing. During combat, characters can fight monsters, natives, or each other. There is no combat during daylight. Denizens and characters can only block each other and must wait till the evening to fight. Monsters will automatically attack unhidden characters during combat. The players roll for the reaction of the natives and decide for themselves if they want to attack each other. When a clearing takes its turn during the evening, the turn is divided into rounds of combat. Each round represents one exchange of blows, including preparations and after effects. The round is subdivided into an encounter step, in which the characters and denizens prepare for the battle, a melee step, in which they exchange blows, a fatigue step, in which the after effects take place. Only the characters and the denizens in that clearing take part in these rounds of combat. Play stops in all other clearings. The characters fight by playing their action chits, weapons, armor, horses, and sometimes treasure cards on the melee sections on the back of their personal history sheet. Monsters and natives fight randomly, governed by die rolls. Combat can result in fatigued and wounded action chits, damaged armor, the death of a horse, or the death of a character. If there are no monsters, natives, or hostile characters in a clearing when it takes its turn in the evening, no fighting takes place, but the characters in the clearing do rounds of combat anyway, in which they can run away or cast spells once magic is introduced. Combat in the clearing ends after 2 rounds where nothing happens. No fatigue, wounds, spells, deaths, or anything else. At the end of the last round of combat in a clearing, any character who remains in the clearing may rearrange their belongings or trade with another character if there's another friendly character in the clearing. 1. Before combat begins. First, each player whose character is involved in the combat should turn his record sheet over to the side that says melee section. This is where he will play his weapons, his armor, his horses, and his attacks and maneuvers. Each player must put all of his active armor pieces in the ovals on his melee section where they are pictured. A shield may be put in any of the 3 ovals. Secondly, if there are any natives in the clearing, the player must determine whether they will fight. Unlike monsters, natives do not automatically attack characters. Instead, each character must roll on the meeting table for each group of natives in that clearing. Hidden characters roll too, in case they become unhidden later in combat. Characters may buy drinks before rolling if they wish, which will give them a roll on a more favorable table as described during the daylight section. On a battle result, a native group is said to be battling that character until the end of combat in the clearing. All natives of that group that are in the clearing may attack him. On any other result, nothing happens. Thus, players can skip the roll for friendly or allied groups. Notice that battling is determined separately for each character and group of natives. One native group may attack a character while another ignores him, and a native group may attack one character while ignoring the other. Finally, for convenience, players may wish to remove all denizens that are participating in combat from the clearing and put them in a clear space where they are accessible to everyone. They are still considered to be in the clearing, but this makes them easier to look at and plan strategies. 2. Using chits in combat. Characters use their action chits to determine their effectiveness in combat. The play of these chits is limited by the following rules. Action chits are played in the used this round box after they are used. Each action chit may only be used once per round of combat. A player can play no more than 2 effort asterisks per round. In other words, at a maximum, he can play 2 chits with 1 asterisk or 1 chit with 2 asterisks. A character can only use a move chit if its strength equals or exceeds the weight of all of his items. He can only use a fight chit if its strength equals or exceeds the weight of his active weapon. Normally, a character can turn either side of his horse up when he uses it, as long as its strength on that side equals or exceeds the weight of all of his items. In combat, there is one further restriction for horses. A character can only use the galloping side once per combat round. The galloping side is the side with the asterisk on it. A character is never obligated to use a horse. He may use a move chit instead, even if his horse is active. If an illegal play is made by mistake, the action is cancelled. In this case, we're looking at a character that has a tremendous item, but has only used a heavy move chit. If an action chit was used, it is put into the used this round box, and play proceeds as if the chit had not been played. The chit is still considered to have been used, and the effort asterisks will restrict the play of further chits. Combat is divided into 3 stages. During the encounter step, players figure out who each denizen is attacking, and take actions such as switching weapons or running away. During the melee step, each character chooses the target of his attack, plays the maneuvers, and resolves hits. In the fatigue step, characters may lose counters from fatigue and wounds. 3. Encounter step. The order of play. The character who took the first turn during daylight is the starting character. So that's the character whose attention chit was drawn first during the daylight phase. When the rules say to do something in order, start with the first character and then go to the left, excluding any character who is not in the clearing that is currently being resolved. The order always starts with the first character's position, even if he has been killed or is not in the clearing. Native horses. If combat is being resolved with a native group with horses, then at the beginning of the encounter step, all the native horses are turned light side up. For the redesigned counters, that's the side without the black strip at the bottom. Assigning denizens. For this section, we're going to use this example, where the berserker and the woods girl are in the same location with a lot of goblins. For now, let's look at just one character. When a denizen, that could be a monster or any native group, is attacking a character, its counter is placed on his sheet in any one of the red boxes. The denizens on a character's sheet are said to be assigned to that character. At the beginning of the encounter step, unassigned denizens must be assigned if possible. When deciding who will assign which denizen, first, in order, each character can take a denizen onto his melee sheet voluntarily, luring them into attacking him. They may take any denizen that was in the clearing, even those already assigned to other characters. Hidden characters may lure denizens, but they will become unhidden in the process. If there is a native group in the clearing, then luring one member of that group causes the entire native group to battle the luring character, if they were not already. After each character gets a chance to lure, if there are any unassigned denizens remaining, then they are going to be assigned to unhidden characters at random. For each individual monster, each character will roll the dice, and the monster will be assigned to the character who rolls highest. This is then repeated for each unassigned monster in the clearing. Natives are assigned in the same way. Only characters who are battling the natives make the die roll. So only characters who have either lured a member of the native group or rolled a battle on the meeting table will need to roll for random assignment of natives. Die roll modifiers do modify the rolled results, and results greater than 6 are allowed in this case. If there is a tie, those tied must roll again to break it. Note, hidden characters cannot be assigned randomly. The denizens cannot find them since they are hidden. This is the only time during the combat round that denizens can be assigned. If all the characters in a clearing are hidden, the denizens are not assigned to anyone and do not attack this round. Deployment. During deployment, a character can charge another character in the same clearing. To do so, he plays a move chit or horse, putting it at the top of his sheet, and he puts his attention chit on the target's melee section. Hidden characters can charge and can be charged only by characters who have found hidden enemies during the daylight phase. In both cases, they will become unhidden. Charging restricts the target's actions, as we'll see. Taking actions. Next, each character who did not charge can take one action. Since we had said that the Berserker had charged, he would not get the opportunity to take an action. They may activate one belonging and or inactivate another. They may also abandon as many belongings as they wish, play a move or horse counter on the top of their melee section to run away, or play a fight chit to the top of their melee section to turn over his active weapons counter. Denizens assigned to a character do not interfere with activating, inactivating belongings or abandoning belongings, but to either run away or activate your weapon counter, the player must have used a move chit, fight chit, or horse whose maneuver time is less than the maneuver time of every denizen and attention chit on his melee section. Attention chits have the same maneuver time as the piece the owner played to charge, either their horse counter or move chit. Riding natives use their horse's maneuver time, not their own. If the character runs away, he immediately leaves the combat. Any denizens that are on his sheet become unassigned and remain so until the next round of combat. The character that had ran away moves onto the road that leads out of his clearing, taking all of his belongings with him. If the character had moved into the clearing during the same day as the combat, they must leave the same way they came. If the character had spent all day in that clearing, then the character may retreat along any road out of the clearing. A character has the option to run even if there were no denizens or other characters in the clearing. Rounds of combat are done as normal in all clearings, even if there's nobody there to fight. Once each character has done an action or declined to do an action, all action chits that are used are put into the used this round box, and play proceeds to the melee step. For melee step. At the beginning of the melee step, all native horses are turned over. Order of play. Play order is determined randomly in the melee step. The players will mix their attention chits together, blank side up, then pick one of them at a time. Choosing targets. During the melee step, each character can make one attack against one monster, native, or character. When a character pulls his attention chit, he may put it on one denizen counter or on another character's melee section by the attack circles. The character or denizen indicated is considered that character's target. Normally, a character can target any denizen in the clearing, including those that remained unassigned or that are on another character's melee section. However, characters that had decided to charge during the deployment step may only target the character they had charged. A character may always choose not to attack and leave his chit unplayed if he chooses, even if he has charged another character. Hitting characters can choose targets and can be targeted by characters who had found them during daylight by finding hidden enemies. In both cases, the hidden character becomes unhidden. Being named as a target does not affect the denizen's assignment. The denizen is not reassigned to attack the character who is attacking it, even if that denizen is currently unassigned. If the character targets a native from a native group that is not battling him, the group will begin to battle the attacking character, but they will still have to wait until the next round to become assigned to him. Attacks and maneuvers. During the melee step, the characters and denizens fight by doing attacks and maneuvers. An attack represents a single blow that is coming at the target from a specific direction, with a specific time number or attack time. There are 3 attack directions: thrust, straight ahead; swing, from side to side; and smash, downwards. The attack time, shown on the lower left-hand corner of the redesigned Chits, or on a weapon counter, if there is one, or on the fight Chit, if the weapon counter does not have one, defines the amount of time before the blow hits. Lower numbers mean faster attacks. A maneuver represents a move in one direction to evade attacks that are coming from other directions. Like attacks, each maneuver has a direction and a maneuver time. The 3 maneuver directions are charge, straight ahead; dodge, sideways; and duck, downward. Faster maneuver times make the combatant harder to hit. After all attentions have been picked, each character may play an attack and maneuver, if they wish. If a character has an active shield, to one of the shield boxes. These plays are made secretly. To play an attack, a character puts his active weapon and a fight Chit into one of his attack spaces. If the character did not have an active weapon, he may play only a fight Chit, and he is then considered to be using his dagger, as we'll go over later. The circle he chooses defines his attack direction. Each circle names the direction it represents and the maneuver it intercepts. A character may play an attack even if he did not choose a target. If he did play an attack without choosing a target with a weapon, as soon as the attack is revealed, he may turn his weapon either side up. To play a maneuver, a character puts his move Chit in one of the maneuver squares at the bottom of his melee section. The square he chooses defines his maneuver direction. Each square names the direction it represents. If the character has an active horse, he may play that instead of the move Chit if he wishes. If the character has an active shield, he must play it. He simply puts it into one of the shield spaces. He does not need an action Chit to do this. Positioning denizens. All denizens on a character sheet are attacking him. He is considered their target. As each player makes his own moves by placing attacks and maneuvers, he may also put denizens into any of the red boxes he wishes. He is not allowed to flip over the counters, however. If there are multiple denizens on a character's sheet, he may place them anywhere he chooses, as long as there is an attack coming from every possible direction. In other words, you cannot stack all of them in the same box until you have at least filled all the positions available. Native horses must be played in a different box than their riders, and they are not considered attacking counters for the purpose of filling the boxes. A player that is attacking an unassigned denizen should put the denizen in any red box on an unused melee section sheet. This might happen if the denizen was attacking someone who ran away, or if the character was hidden when the denizens were assigned. Unassigned denizens who are not being attacked can be ignored this round. Revealing and repositioning. Once all players have secretly chosen their plays and arranged their denizens on their sheet, they reveal the melee sections simultaneously. Then, each player must randomly determine the final position of the denizens on his sheet and any unassigned denizens he may have targeted. First, he rolls one die for each melee section involved. The denizens and their horses on that section move as described by the repositioning denizens table at the end of the rules. This roll is never affected by die modifiers. This is termed changing positions. So if we take a look at this example, a 2 was rolled for this melee section. That means that box 2 will be unchanged while box 1 switches with box 3. So the denizen in box 2 does not move, but the denizens in boxes 1 and 3 switch positions. Then, for each box that holds a denizen, the character will roll 2 dice. If either of these return a 6, the denizens in that box change tactics. All counters in the box are flipped over, except native horses. Native horses never change tactics. Once a denizen has changed tactics, it keeps that side up until it changes tactics again. Resolving attacks. Once all denizens are repositioned, all attacks are evaluated to see if they hit and what harm they caused. Each attack has 4 values: the attack time, the attack direction, the weapon length, and the harm level. A character's attack time is the number printed on his weapon counter. If there is no number printed on the counter, then the number printed on his fight chit is his attack time. His attack direction is defined by which circle contains his fight chit and weapon. His attack is either a thrust, swing, or smash, depending on which circle he chose. A denizen's attack time is listed on his chit, and the box he is in defines his attack direction. Weapon lengths for denizens are given on the redesigned chits. Weapon lengths for characters' weapons and for denizens when not using the redesigned chits are available in the chart in the back of the instructions. There are also redesigned chits for character weapons, but I'm not using those in this video. Harm will be discussed later. 2 other values are important as well: the maneuver time and maneuver direction. A character's maneuver time is the number printed on the move chit or on the horse he had played. His maneuver direction is defined by the box where he put it. His maneuver is either to charge, to dodge, or to duck. A denizen's maneuver time is printed on his counter, and his maneuver direction is defined by the box that he is in. So a denizen's attack direction and maneuver direction are the same. There is one exception. If a denizen is a native using a horse in combat, the number on the horse counter is the maneuver time, and the box containing the horse defines the native's movement direction. So the native's attack direction and movement direction are different. Attacks will take place in a particular order. In the first round of combat in a clearing, attacks resolve in order of weapon length, from longest to shortest. So, looking at these two goblins and the bow, the goblins have an attack length of 2, while the light bow has a length of 14. So the bow would attack first during the first round of combat. Ties are broken in favor of the lowest attack time. In all combat rounds after the first, attacks are resolved in order of attack time, from the lowest to highest, with ties being broken by weapon length. In both cases, attacks that have the same weapon length and attack time are resolved simultaneously. In order, players determine whether each attack hits. An attack hits if its attack time, in this case 3, is less than the maneuver time of its target. In this case we're looking at a 3, so it is not. If the woods girl had been targeting the other goblin, then her attack time of 3 would have been less than his maneuver time of 4. And that would result in a hit. This is termed undercutting. An attack also hits if the direction of the target matches the direction of the attack. In this case, nothing lines up with the woods girl's attack. But if that goblin she had originally targeted had stayed in box 1 instead of repositioning, then they would be across the same line. This is termed matching directions. As we can see on the sheet, thrust hits charge, swing will hit dodge, and smash will hit duck. The arrows on a melee sheet serve as reminders of which circle and boxes intercept each other on the sheet. If a character had not played a maneuver, any attacks against him hit automatically and are considered to have matched direction. If an attack had neither undercut nor matched directions with its target, then it is considered to have missed. Note that a character can only hit the target he chose. He is not attacking other denizens on his sheet, and they are not harmed even if he matches directions with them. All denizens on a character's sheet are considered to be attacking him, so any matched directions will hit him, as well as any denizens that are able to undercut his maneuver. If an attack misses in this case no lineup, no undercut, it has no effect on the target. If the attacker was a character, he must turn his weapon alerted side up. If the attack were to have hit, the attack will inflict harm on the target. Determining harm. Harm is measured in the same levels as weight. Light, medium, heavy, or tremendous. Occasionally, harm can also be negligible. Negligible harm has no effect, but the attack is still considered a hit. The basic harm that a weapon or denizen inflicts is listed on the counter. For weapons, the harm is equal to the weapon's weight. The basic harm levels is adjusted in the following ways. Harm is adjusted up one level for each sharpness star on the counter. If the target has armor, one sharpness star is ignored for this purpose. If the character played a striking weapon with a fight chit whose strength exceeds the weight of the weapon, the harm level is adjusted up one level. Only one level total can be gained this way. If the attack was made with a missile weapon, the player must roll on the missile table found in the end of the instructions. Native archers and crossbowmen must also roll on this table. Archers roll 1 die, while crossbowmen roll 2 as normal. A character who played a fight chit without a weapon counter is using a dagger. A dagger does light harm with 1 sharpness star, no matter what fight chit was used. As mentioned, armor causes 1 sharpness star of an attack to be ignored. Attacks without sharpness stars are unaffected. Some monsters are armored. All dragons, trolls, serpents, and vipers have armor. This is shown on the redesigned chits by a gray circle. Many natives are armored, and using the redesigned chits, this is also shown with a gray circle in the top right-hand corner. War horses are armored as well, and if a character or native is using a war horse to maneuver, attacks against them lose 1 sharpness star. Characters themselves are considered armored if they have armor pieces active. However, some armor are only effective against attacks from a particular direction. Like this helmet is only effective against smash attacks. If the red arrow from a box passes through 1 or more pieces of armor, attacks from that direction hit the armor, and 1 sharpness star is ignored. Multiple pieces of armor do not reduce the harm further. Note that a character's maneuver direction does not always determine which piece of armor is effective. For example, a character who is undercut by a thrusting denizen will have the damage inflicted upon his shield, not upon his helmet. So if he did not have this shield or armor here, and he was maneuvering this way but undercut, he would not lose a sharpness star since this helmet does not protect him. After the level of harm is determined, in this case we have H with the sharpness star and an overswing, bringing up to the tremendous with the sharpness star. The damage is applied immediately. So for this example, I'm just going to get rid of this horse and move the Lancer to be intercepted. After the level of harm is determined, it is applied immediately. we're using a die result of a 3 for the Woods Girl's missile, because that denotes no change, leaving her with a L star star. If the target was a monster, the player compares the final harm to the monster's vulnerability. So the final harm is an L star star. Bringing that up to L with 1 sharpness star makes it medium, with the 2nd sharpness star makes it heavy. Against the Goblin, who is unarmored, so that does not relieve one of the sharpness stars. So it's heavy damage to the Goblin. If the harm equals or exceeds the monster's vulnerability, in this case it does, heavy against the vulnerability of medium, the monster is killed. Otherwise, if this had been a die roll of a 6, decreasing by 3 levels, giving it negligible, it would not have killed the Goblin, and therefore has no effect on the Goblin. If the target is a native, the same procedure is followed. If the native was using a horse in combat, the horse has a harm inflicted to it instead of the native. So in this case, the horse dies while the native remains. The vulnerability of a horse is determined by its type. On the redesigned native counters, the vulnerability is shown on the counter. On the character counters that came with the game, the vulnerability is not shown. The letter shows the amount of weight the horse can carry. Ponies will always be unarmored, medium vulnerability. Workhorses will always be heavy, unarmored vulnerability, while war horses will always be tremendous and armored vulnerability. This is why you see special movement actions with the pony and the workhorse, but not with the warhorse, because their specialty is that extra armor. When a native's horse is killed, the native continues to fight on foot, though his horse continues to define his maneuver speed and direction for the rest of the combat round. If the target of the attacks being resolved is a character, the character must determine whether the attacks harm the horse, any armor the character may have, or the character himself. If the character played a horse in the melee step, the harm of the attack is resolved against the horse. If the attack was intercepted by armor, you need to compare the final harm of the attack against the armor's weight. If the harm is less, in this case L, then the armor is unaffected. If the harm were to be equal to the armor, in this case medium to medium, the armor counter is flipped to its damaged side. If it was already on its damaged side, then the armor is destroyed. If the harm inflicted to a piece of armor is greater than the armor, then the armor is destroyed. Harm is inflicted against the first piece of armor between the denizen and the character. So, if there's a shield, harm will be inflicted against it first, then the breastplate or helmet, and finally, the suit of armor. Pieces of armor that are not in line with the attack are unaffected by the attack. Regardless of the effect on the armor, if the final harm of the attack was medium or greater, then the character must take 1 wound. If the attack had not hit any armor or horses, the harm of that attack is inflicted on the character himself. If the harm, in this case medium, is greater than or equal to the character's vulnerability, then the character will be killed. If the harm is not equal to or greater than the vulnerability, then the character simply takes 1 wound. Any wounds will be resolved during the fatigue step. When a character is killed, his attention chit is removed from his target. If a denizen is killed, he is removed from the game and placed by the setup card. Any attack that the victim would have made are cancelled. When a horse or piece of armor is destroyed, it will instantly be removed from play. It does not protect its owner from further attacks that have yet to be resolved. However, the direction and time of his maneuver do not change. The horse can be left where it is temporarily as a reminder. When armor is destroyed, it immediately turns to its undamaged side and returns to the setup card. When horses are killed, they are removed from the game. Occasionally, several attacks occur simultaneously. In this case, all harm is inflicted at the same time. It is possible for a character and a denizen to kill each other if their attacks are of equal weapon length. In this case, the rogue one has length 5, and the great axe also has a length 5, and of equal speed. In this case, the rogue attack of 5, and the unalerted axe using the 5 speed from the fight chit. If several attacks with the same length and speed were to hit a piece of armor or a horse, all of those attacks are either resolved against that piece of armor or the horse. For example, we're looking at 3 medium sharpness star attacks against the pony. When this occurs, all of these attacks that are attacking at the same time will hit the pony. The horse would be killed, but there is no further results. If the 3 attacks had hit a suit of armor, we're going to go on a limb here a little bit and say that for some reason the Woods Girl is able to wear a heavy suit of armor. Those same 3 attacks would damage the suit of armor. One attack would damage it, another attack would destroy it, and all 3 attacks would cause wounds, giving that character 3 wounds and a destroyed piece of armor. Other results of successful attacks. If a character's attack hits its target, even if the damage was negligible, the character's weapon is turned alerted side down. When a character misses his target, because it does not line up or is not undercut, his weapon is turned alerted side up. When an attack successfully undercuts or lines up and kills, the denizen is removed from play and placed by the setup card until he regenerates. When a denizen is killed, it is removed from play until it regenerates. If the denizen was a native with a horse, the horse is removed also. This simulates the horse running away. Now, usually you'd have to kill the horse before you could kill the native, but there's some special circumstances where this does not apply. Once all the results of one attack have been applied, players should then evaluate all of the other attacks in order. 5. The fatigue step. At the end of the round of combat, each character must inactivate action chits to pay for fatigues and wounds he incurred during the round. Fatigue. Each player can play 1 asterisk per round without fatiguing. But if a player played 2, including chits that were accidentally played illegally, he must fatigue 1 asterisk. This is done by taking a chit, including the ones that may have been used during this round of combat, and flipping it from active over to the inactive side, remaining face up. If both asterisks played were on a move chit, The chit fatigued must also be a move chit. If both asterisks used were on a fight chit, then the chit fatigued must be a fight chit. The player can fatigue any active chit of the appropriate type he wishes to. It does not need to be one of the chits that was used during combat. If he fatigues a chit with 2 asterisks on it, he may activate a fatigued 1 asterisk chit of that same type, either fight or move as appropriate. Players who used a 2 asterisk chit in order to run from combat are still subject to this rule. Wounds. Each player must wound 1 chit for each wound that was inflicted on him during the round. To wound a chit, you simply put it with the other inactive chits face down. The type of chit or number of asterisks on the chit does not matter. You're able to wound any active chit, whether you used it this round or not. If a character no longer has any active chits, he may then wound fatigued chits. If a character has no fatigued chits either, then he is killed. 6. End of combat. After all attacks have been resolved and fatigues and wounds are taken, players determine whether there will be another round of combat. Combat in a clearing ends if there are no more characters in that clearing, or when there are 2 consecutive uneventful rounds of combat. Rounds where no characters, denizens, or horses were killed. No armor was either damaged or destroyed. No action chits were either fatigued nor wounded. This simulates the denizens giving up after they can't come to grips with the character. Note that it is fairly simple for a player to keep combat going if he wishes. All the character would need to do is play 2 effort asterisks so that a chit will be fatigued during the fatigue step. If combat continues for another round in a clearing, each character in that clearing takes his attention chit back to use for the next round and puts the action chits he used with the rest of his active chits ready for use in the next round. Denizens that are assigned to a character stay on his sheet. Once a denizen is assigned to a character, it remains assigned until he runs away or is killed, or some other character lures that denizen. The next round of combat begins again with the encounter step. When combat ends in a clearing, any remaining denizens are turned light side up. Any characters still in the clearing may rearrange their belongings or trade with other characters in that clearing. Characters who ran away end the day on the roadway they had used between the 2 clearings. While a character is on the roadway, he is not considered to be in the clearing. He cannot perform game functions that require him to be in a clearing, such as blocking, rearranging, or abandoning belongings, trading with other characters, or recording the follow activity. He must start his turn the next day by recording a move phase to one of the clearings at either end of the road he is on. This is subject to the following rules. If he's moving to a mountain clearing, he must use 2 move phases and remains on the roadway until the second one is complete. If he is between a cave clearing and a non-cave clearing, he is assumed to be outside. He can record sunlight phases on his next turn as long as he does not enter that cave clearing. The character does not have to play a move chit to carry the items that he owns. The chit he played to run away has already paid for what he is carrying. Once combat has ended in all eligible clearings, evening ends. 6. The spoils of war. If a character's attack killed a denizen, he is immediately going to gain whatever fame, notoriety, and or gold is indicated on the chit. He multiplies the fame and notoriety by 2 if it's the second kill made in the day. So, if this goblin was killed first, the character would gain 1 fame and 1 notoriety. If this were the second goblin that were killed in that order, he would then gain 2 fame, 2 notoriety for this goblin, making the total for these two 3 fame, 3 notoriety. If it's the third kill in the same day, then the fame and notoriety are multiplied by 3. So making this goblin worth 3 fame, 3 notoriety, adding to the 2's, making it 5 fame, 5 notoriety, adding to 1, making a grand total of 6 fame, 6 notoriety, if these 3 goblins were killed by 1 character during 1 evening. Gold, however, is never multiplied. Players should put the denizens they kill in line to help keep track of the order they are killed. And the type of denizen does not matter. You could have a patrol killed mixed in here with the goblins, thus making it times 1, times 2, times 3, then times 4. If 2 or more characters kill the same denizen with simultaneous attacks, the basic fame and notoriety is divided equally between them, retaining fractions. If there was a gold bounty, it is also split, but dropping the fractions. Each character can count the attack as a kill. For example, if the elf killed 2 wolves today, and he kills a 3rd wolf simultaneously with the druid gets half of a notoriety point. The elf will get 1.5 notoriety points. This is because he has the multiplier of 3, but he's only getting half of that because of the simultaneous kill with the druid. So half of 3 is 1.5. If a character kills another character, he takes that victim's recorded notoriety without multiplication. He can lose notoriety if the victim's notoriety score were negative. He also takes all of the victim's gold and belongings. He does not get the character's recorded fame. This does count as a kill. When a character is killed by a monster, the character's belongings are abandoned in the clearing. The character's gold disappears. If the character is killed by a native group, his gold disappears and his belongings are put in that native's box on the setup card as if he had just sold the items. When a native leader, that's the natives with the HQ printed on them, is killed, his group's belongings are abandoned in the clearing where he was killed. They are put under the stack of abandoned belongings in the same order they are stacked in the group's box. 7. Special denizens. Archers and spear-carrying goblins. These denizens do not have attack values when they are light side up, so they cannot cause any harm unless they change tactics to their dark side. They act as normal in all other ways. They are still assigned to characters and can still restrict their target's play of chits. The demon, the winged or flying demon, and the imp. When a monster's counter lists a magical type instead of a harm letter, the monster is using a magical attack. Combat is resolved normally, but in place of harm, the target must roll on the power of the pit table for demons or on the curse table when facing the imp. Magic attacks are not stopped by a character's armor or horse. They always take effect directly to the character. If the attack fatigues or wounds chits, the effects take place during the fatigue step, just as normal harm effect does. Head and club counters. Some monsters have head and club counters, which represent an extra attack the monster makes. When the monster is assigned to a character, the head or club is assigned as well. The counter attacks just like a regular monster with the harm level and possible sharpness stars and attack time given, except for the following. During the melee step, a monster's head or club must be put in a different box than the monster's body. The head or club counter cannot be targeted or harmed. The only way to get rid of it is to kill the owner. When the owner is killed, the head or club is removed from play as well. Tremendous monsters. Tremendous monsters are the monsters that have the T in the top right-hand corner of the redesigned chits. On the original chits, they're simply the largest monster chits. Tremendous monsters may have extra head or club counters, but they do not necessarily have to. Tremendous monsters do not change tactics like other monsters. You will not need to roll a die for them during the tactics section of the melee step. Instead, the main counter only turns red side up when it either hits the character or its head or club counter hits the character, either by undercutting the move chit or horse plate or by lining up. That will cause the monster to turn red side up. It is turned red side down again only if its target is killed. Head and club counters can change tactics as normal, so you will need to roll a die for them. A red side tremendous monster has picked up its target and is trying to tear him apart. The monster's maneuver time is used as normal and restricts what chits the character can play. The monster's attack time has no harm letter. If the attack hits, the character is automatically killed, regardless of any armor that may have intercepted the attack. The following rules apply to tremendous monsters that are red side up. They cannot change targets. They cannot be lured away by other characters or hired natives. The target may not play a move chit during the encounter step. The target may maneuver and play move chits as normal during the melee step, but he cannot play a horse. He is considered to have been picked up off his horse and is in the creature's grasp, trying to avoid the final blow. So you cannot play a horse counter while the creature is red side up. Combat cannot end in a clearing as long as there is a red side up monster. Somebody has to die. Midnight. At midnight, the day ends. If it was the 28th day of the month and you're playing a single month game, the game ends and the players determine who won. Otherwise, if it's any other day, all weapons become unalerted. All face-up map chits except for the Lost City and Lost Castle are turned face down. All sound and sight chits remain in their clearing. All curses are removed from all characters in the clearing with the chapel. Play proceeds to the next day, so you move the day turn marker to the next space. Okay, so that was sunset, evening, and midnight. Not too bad. I know it did take quite a while, but there's a lot to go over with the combat because there's a lot of different variations that could come up. But again, once you learn it, it really is not too difficult. So that's about it. I'll probably have the next video out pretty quick. Taking a couple days off work, so I'll try and get that next one out. And hopefully it'll be up soon. So thanks for watching. See you next time.